Hey there! Ever feel like you're stuck at a certain level in English? Working hard, but not seeing any progress? You're not alone. This is a situation that many learners face. You've been studying grammar, learning new vocabulary, and practicing your listening. But when it comes time to speak, things just don't flow. If that sounds familiar, then today's video is for you. I'm going to share with you some big mistakes that might be holding you back from fluency, mistakes that many learners don't even realize they're making. Stick around, because after this video, you'll have the tools you need to break through those learning plateaus and start speaking confidently. So, let's dive in. A lot of learners hit a wall after a certain point in their English journey. You might feel frustrated because you've worked so hard. Yet progress seems slow. You've spent months, maybe even years, studying grammar, memorizing vocabulary, and watching English content. But when it comes to speaking, things just don't come out as smoothly as you'd like. So, what's the problem? The problem isn't you or your ability to learn English, it's likely your approach to learning. Most learners fall into the same traps that prevent them from making real progress. These traps are easy to miss, but once you know what they are, you can avoid them and start making real strides toward fluency. Today, we're going to break down 4 major traps that hold many English learners back, and I'll share with you exactly how to avoid them. So, let's jump in and take a closer look at the first one. Let's start with one of the biggest barriers to fluency, the fear of speaking. If you've ever felt frozen in a conversation, too worried about making mistakes to speak, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a common issue among learners, and it's one that I've personally struggled with. But here's the thing, if you're afraid to speak, you'll never improve. I remember when I first started speaking English. Every time I opened my mouth, I was scared that I'd say something wrong, or worse, that people wouldn't understand me. The fear of making mistakes was so overwhelming that I avoided speaking altogether. But here's the truth. Focusing too much on being perfect actually stops you from speaking at all. You get stuck in a cycle of thinking you need to be flawless before you can start speaking. That's a trap. The more you try to avoid mistakes, the more you prevent yourself from speaking and practicing, which is how you improve. The secret to overcoming this fear is simple. Speak anyway. Mistakes are not failures. They are opportunities to learn. Every time you make a mistake, you are one step closer to fluency because you've learned something important about how the language works. So, here's what you can do. Make speaking a daily habit. Start small. You don't need to have long conversations at first. Just talk to yourself. You can talk about your day, describe your surroundings, or even share your thoughts out loud. It's not about having perfect conversations. It's about practicing regularly and getting comfortable with making mistakes. For example, try talking to yourself for 2 minutes about what you did today, or look out the window and describe what you see in English. You'll start to feel more comfortable as you make these small mistakes and realize they don't matter as much as you thought they did. Speaking regularly, even just to yourself, helps you build confidence and fluency over time. Remember, speaking is like any other skill. You wouldn't expect to play the piano perfectly after reading music books for months. The same applies to English. You need to practice speaking. The second trap is one that many learners fall into, obsessing over grammar. Now, don't get me wrong, grammar is important. It's the foundation of the language. But the problem comes when learners focus so much on grammar rules that they stop speaking and practicing because they're too worried about getting everything perfect. I've been there too. I used to spend hours memorizing grammar rules, making sure that every sentence I said was grammatically perfect. But here's the thing. Native speakers don't speak perfectly all the time. They make mistakes, forget words, and sometimes break grammar rules in casual conversation. And that's okay. What matters is that they can still communicate clearly. When you focus too much on grammar, it starts to get in the way of natural communication. You begin to overthink every sentence. You're no longer thinking about your message, you're thinking about whether you've used the right verb tense or article. That kills the flow of the conversation and prevents you from practicing real-life communication. So, what's the solution? Instead of obsessing over grammar rules, focus on communicating clearly. It's more important to express your ideas than to have perfect grammar. You can improve your grammar as you go, but your goal should always be to be understood. A great way to do this is to learn grammar in context. Watch English content TV shows, movies, or YouTube videos, and pay attention to how people use grammar in real situations. Notice the patterns and structures they use in conversation. By listening to natural speech, you'll start to understand how grammar works without having to memorize every rule. And don't worry about making mistakes while speaking. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. The key is to focus on the message you're trying to convey, not on being perfect. Okay, so now that we've covered the fear of speaking and over-focusing on grammar, let's move on to the third trap that many learners get caught in. But before we dive into that, take a moment to think about what you've learned so far. Are you making these mistakes? Let's keep moving forward, and I'll show you how to avoid even more common traps that can hold you back from fluency. Have you ever found yourself scrolling through social media and watching someone speak flawless English? Maybe they sound so confident and fluent, and you start feeling like you're falling behind. You see their perfect sentences, their perfect pronunciation, and you can't help but compare your progress to theirs. It's easy to feel discouraged, right? But here's something important to remember. Everyone starts somewhere. I know it can be hard, especially when social media makes it seem like everyone else is learning faster or speaking better. But the truth is, the person you're comparing yourself to has likely made thousands of mistakes and spent years learning to get where they are today. It's easy to forget that when we only see the final product, the fluent speech, the perfect grammar, the natural conversations, what you don't see is the years of practice, the mistakes, the frustration, and the effort that went into reaching that level. When you compare yourself to others, you forget about your own journey. Your learning process is unique, and comparing your progress to someone else's will only make you feel discouraged. So, what should you do instead? The answer is simple. Focus on your own progress. Start celebrating the small wins, because every milestone matters. Did you understand a new podcast episode without subtitles? Celebrate that. Were you able to hold a simple conversation in English without freezing up? That's huge progress. Even understanding one sentence more than yesterday is something to be proud of. To keep track of your progress, I recommend you keep a journal where you note down your achievements. Write about the new things you've learned, how much you understand from English TV shows, or any conversations you've had in English. This can help you see how far you've come and remind you that progress is happening. even if it's slow. Remember, learning is not a race. The goal is to keep moving forward at your own pace, not to match someone else's speed. Everyone has different starting points and goals, so don't let someone else's success define your own progress. Let's move on to the next trap: passive learning. Now, this is a tricky one. Passive learning refers to activities like watching English TV shows, reading articles, or listening to podcasts. These are great for improving your listening skills and increasing vocabulary, but passive learning alone won't take you far. Think about it this way. If you wanted to learn to cook, you wouldn't just watch cooking shows, right? You would actually go into the kitchen and start cooking yourself. The same is true for learning English. Watching and listening to content is essential for building comprehension. But to speak fluently, you need to actively practice using the language. Otherwise, you're only improving one part of your language skills. Personal insight. I love watching English videos and listening to podcasts myself. It's a fun way to learn, and you can pick up a lot of useful phrases. But I noticed that when I wasn't actively speaking or writing, my ability to use the language in real-life situations wasn't improving as fast. That's when I realized passive learning is only half the picture. You need to combine it with active learning to make real progress. So, here's an idea. Try the echo method. After watching a video or listening to a podcast, pause and repeat what you just heard. Try to speak in your own words and imitate the pronunciation. This will help you practice speaking while reinforcing what you've just learned. It's a great way to connect the words you hear to how you would use them in conversation. Another fantastic way to practice is by teaching others what you've learned. Teaching forces you to organize the information in a way that makes sense, and it encourages you to use the language actively. Even if the person you're teaching doesn't understand English, explaining something to them in your own words is a great exercise. The point is, balance passive learning with active practice. After watching an episode of an English series, don't just move on to the next one. Try writing about what you learned or speaking about it with a friend or language partner. You can also take notes and summarize the main ideas in your own words. This will not only help with comprehension, but also get you actively using the language. Now that we've identified some of the biggest traps that hold back your progress, let's look at some practical solutions. These are simple steps you can take to improve your learning habits and start moving forward more effectively. Start speaking every day. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start speaking. You don't need to speak perfectly to improve. The key is to start speaking regularly. Record yourself, talk to friends, or even talk to yourself in front of a mirror. The more you speak, the more confident you'll become. Don't worry about making mistakes. Mistakes are part of the process and actually help you learn. So, make a habit of speaking every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Make grammar fun. Instead of trying to memorize grammar rules in isolation, try to learn grammar in context. Watch movies or listen to podcasts, and pay attention to how grammar is used in real conversations. By seeing grammar in action, you'll get a better sense of how the language works in practice. You can even try to imitate what you hear to make grammar practice feel more natural. Don't stress too much about grammar mistakes. The goal is communication, not perfection. Native speakers often make grammar mistakes, and that's okay. Focus on getting your point across and improving over time. Celebrate your progress. Don't compare yourself to others. Track your own progress by celebrating small wins. Did you understand a new song in English? Did you have your first conversation in English without using a dictionary? Write these things down and celebrate your achievements. Keep a progress journal where you note the milestones you've reached. This will help you stay motivated and see how far you've come. Remember, every small step counts. Your progress is your progress. Balance. Passive and active learning. Watching English content is a great way to improve your listening skills, but don't forget to balance it with active practice. Practice speaking what you've learned, write about it, and try using new words in your conversations. This helps you use what you've learned in real-life situations, and you'll start noticing improvements faster. Learning a language is not a race. It's a journey. And everyone has their own timeline. You might feel like you're not improving fast enough, but the truth is, you're already improving. You just need to give yourself the time and space to see it. The key to success in learning English is consistency, practice, and a willingness to make mistakes. Don't expect perfection from yourself. Just focus on the progress you're making. So, here's my challenge to you today. Pick one of these traps that you recognize in yourself, whether it's fear of speaking, obsessing over grammar, comparing yourself to others, or passive learning, and start addressing it. Make a commitment to change and take small steps every day. You don't need to be perfect, but you can keep moving forward and improving. Remember, practice makes progress, not perfection. Keep practicing, keep improving, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. You're closer to fluency than you think. I believe in you. If you found these tips helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more language learning advice. Share this video with a friend who's also learning English, and let's support each other on this journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.